Good morning, everybody. I'm J. Lenora Bressler, and welcome to the February 20th, 2018 edition of the Bible, Delight in the Details. This is Josh's birthday, so this is the Josh birthday segment. So happy birthday to my wonderful husband, Josh. We're going to look today at a rather famous quote from the Old Testament, Joshua chapter 1, verse 9. For have I not commanded you? Be brave and courageous. Do not be terrified. Do not be discouraged. For the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go. This was beautiful words out of the mouth of Joshua, speaking on behalf of the Lord. Couple interesting things here. Many of the people in the Old Testament are precursors of Christ in some way. For example, Moses. He is a prefiguring of Christ's role as the ultimate lawgiver and law fulfiller. He is the complete fulfillment of the law. He talks about what the greatest commandments are, and then he lived the perfect life, doing what no one else could do. He satisfied the law completely. Interestingly, also, he is prefigured in Moses in the sense that Moses brought the people out of the captivity of slavery in Egypt, and Jesus brings us out of the captivity of sin. Egypt is a metaphor for sin in our life, and he brings us through the desert that brings us to the promised land. But of course, we know that Moses did not actually bring the people into the promised land. That fell to his successor, Joshua. And so Joshua also prefigures Christ in his role as the person who brings us into the promised land, into the ultimate salvation. He goes with us on the journey into heaven, ultimately, and eternity and salvation. Now, it's interesting because Joshua, very similar to Christ, is telling us how we are to act and why we are to act in that way. Because God will be with us, in our case, on this side of the cross, in the form of the Holy Spirit, who has been given to us to stay with us. We literally have God with us at all times through the ever-present, omnipresent existence of the Holy Spirit. We really do have God always with us. And what does Joshua tell us to do? To be brave and courageous, not to be terrified, and not to be discouraged. You know, as a motivational speaker, I have occasion to hear a lot of other motivational speakers speak. And one of the things that is a very common thing that is asked is, people ask the audience, if you were not afraid, or if you were guaranteed of the help and the resources that you would need, what would you do in your life? What would you strive for? What would you go after? What goals would you set if you were not afraid? It's a great question, actually, because fear is the number one thing that holds us back. It's the number one obstacle in any of our lives. We think it's money or the lack thereof. We think it's not having the connections. We think maybe it's a lack of skill on our part. But the truth is that people that strive greatly often achieve greatly. You can't achieve anything unless you try, right? It's the old saying, you can't win the game if you just don't play at all. And so the question is, what are we as Christians failing to do because we're afraid? And why in the world would we be afraid? God is with us. So whether our goals work exactly the way we have them in mind, or whether God uses our walking down a certain road to turn us into a different road and go a different way, what does it matter? God is there with us. Why would we ever be afraid? Be strong and courageous, says Joshua. Be strong and courageous, says Jesus Christ. Let us one and all live up to this great call. I'm J. Lenora Bressler. Visit me tomorrow on the next edition of the Bible, Delight in the Details. Have a great day.